Hello, welcome to episode 3 of the SL24 We are here with Chandler Morrell. He is a Peer24 lead. He has been one for about a year and a half. He is a Silesian gentleman,
Yes, ma'am.
and he is also a psychology and neuroscience double major. We have 7 questions for you today, as per usual.
Great.
Each question should last around 3 to 4 minutes. So, yeah, let's get started.
All right, let's do it.
Question number 1. Who are you?
Who am I? I'm Chandler Morrell. I am a local Delawarean. I'm 20 years old. I'm a junior here at the University of Delaware. As Sam said, psychology and neuroscience. Double major. I grew up in Newcastle, Delaware, which is about a half hour away, not too far. Went to Salesianum, great school. I love my brothers there. Uh, yeah, and I work at Sean's house. I'm a peer lead at Sean's house. It's one of probably the greatest job I've ever had. Super fun. Love my coworkers. Greatest group of people ever.
Yeah, well, we love you.
Oh,
I
that's
have
nice.
I have a question. How did you end up here? I think it was a good story that
Absolutely
needs to be told.
Yeah. So I found out about Sean's house when it first opened in 2020, and at that time I was getting like an idea that I wanted to go into like the mental health field for my like future profession. So I ended up applying the summer of 2021, I believe. And they never responded to my email. But I was like, all right, that's fine. So I reapplied the winter of 22, got in, did my training, and just started off as something to get like volunteer hours and just kind of like check it out. But eventually, I decided to come to UD and got more involved with Sean's house. And eventually, they were like, "Do you want to be a peer lead?" And I was like, "Of course I do want to be a peer lead." Yeah, and it's kind of just kind of gone from there. I didn't really anticipate this being much more than like me volunteering, but yeah.
Now it's a lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely. I live, breathe Sean's house. I love this house.
I love it.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about outside of Sean's house? So I know you do some research. I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. So I work in a research lab. I've been doing research for around 2.5 years, and I'm really interested in getting into the research academia space. Specifically, my research interest focuses on trauma and the effects trauma has on children, specifically like domestic trauma. So we're talking like neglect, domestic abuse, sexual abuse in the home. Um, I'm really passionate about looking at long-term life outcomes that causes, and also intervention strategies that we can use to help individuals who've gone through traumatic experiences get to a better place where they can be a more functioning member of society.
Well, that's awesome. It sounds like do you plan to work with just children, or is it kind of broad spectrum?
So my group I really like working with, and I want to eventually do like be a psychologist and have clients. I really think I do well with children and teenagers and young adults. I've always had kind of a knack for that. I'm open to working with adults. It's not, I mean, I actually really don't have a lot of experience in it, but just kind of like through the work at Sean's house, I've found that like I really do like working with children and teens and
I could
stuff
see
like
it.
that.
I bet you're great at it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm open to whatever, absolutely.
All right, cool. Let's move on to question number 2. What has been a lock in your life?
Ooh, it's a deep
It's
question.
a tough one. Yeah, we dive right in here.
Deep number 2 question. I would say a lock in my life is I've definitely throughout my life struggled with depression and anxiety. Um, I mean, I can remember as young as like being 6 years old and struggling and just not, acting out and just not really understanding.
Yeah, not knowing what to do.
Yeah. But a couple years ago, I went through a really bad period in my life. I won't say bad, but a tough period in my life where depression was kind of, it was the worst it's ever been for
Mm-hmm.
me. And I ended up coming out of that experience with just a new outlook on like what mental illness means to me. Um, you know, I struggle with depression. I still struggle with anxiety all the time, but it's at the same time it like fuels me to do better, to work on myself, and to also like do the work for other, to help other people and to do research and try to figure out like why do people feel this way and how can we help
Mm-hmm.
people. That's like my main interest is like how can I help people with research. So yeah, just going through that experience definitely gave me kind of a spark to like be more interested and be more inclined to be like I want to help people.
Yeah, do you it sounds like you're almost grateful for that struggle and that period of
Yeah.
time. Would you say that? In a weird
In
way,
a
like
weird,
there's like beauty in that? Like
yeah. I mean, it's really interesting because while depression, anxiety, obviously bad things, right? Things that we want to avoid, there is a sense of grit and a sense of kind of toughness that comes with being able to go through those experiences and just learning about yourself, how you work, how you interact with other people, and how that interacts with depression and anxiety itself. I forget what it's called, but the bowl thing that Zach was talking about,
yeah.
I forget. It's,
So if you shatter a bowl, I believe it's an Asian art.
yeah,
If you
it is.
shatter a bowl, they will fill the missing pieces with gold, and
Yes.
it actually makes it beautiful, and it also makes it like stronger.
I feel really strongly with that messaging, just as in like, my weakness can also be my strength, right? Like anything that we're going through in life, let's acknowledge that it's bad, and
Yeah,
at the same time, let's flip that and create
yeah,
something even more beautiful that informs art, that informs a passion, that
yeah.
informs how we treat other people.
Empathy. Yeah, I think that's
Absolutely.
like the number one thing here. Is a lot of our peers have a lot of empathy because
Yep.
they've experienced a lot. So thank you for that.
Mhm.
We'll move on to question number 3.
Right.
What is the one thing you want the world to know about Sean's house?
There's a lot of things
There needs to be more. First
Yeah,
of all,
absolutely. I mean, I think if I can share any message about Sean's house, it's just that this is kind of like the future of mental health
hmm
care and mental health kind of awareness and stuff like that. Um, for years and years and years, we really, as a society, haven't acknowledged mental health as this thing that, you know, is so important in daily life. I mean, it's usually been, oh, like, you're either good or you're, like, depressed. Like,
hmm
but now we're really entering a space in the world where we're acknowledging, okay, it's a spectrum, right? Like, I can be really great or I can be really bad. Um, and Sean's house is for those times where you're in the middle, you're not feeling great, or those times where you're feeling at your worst.
hmm
And this is like what mental health care should look like, right? You
hmm
should acknowledge those feelings if sometimes it takes time, but once you acknowledge those feelings, come to a place that's easy to access, that is welcoming and comforting, and we, as Sean's House, will help you on this mental health journey to get started. People say it all the time, and it's cliche at this point, but it really, it really is true. Like this kind of thing did not exist. Like when I went through a
hmm
lot of my mental health struggles early
Yeah,
on. I mean, I think Sean's House opened when I was 16, and even then, like it was
yeah,
kind of not too late, but it was late enough where it didn't. I didn't have this resource back then.
yeah,
You know, um, but this is. I think the world should have more Sean's houses. It's so hard to get from point A to point B of like, oh, I feel depressed. Let me get a therapist. Let me get a
yeah,
psychiatrist. Right. That kind of process takes months and
yeah,
months and months. This is like this is the stepping stone that you need in the middle. At least for now, right? Because maybe in the future it'll be easier, but at least for now, this is kind of what this process is going to look like, and I think that's really cool. How we're a
yeah,
part of that.
yeah. Absolutely. I also feel like we do a really good job of filling in those gaps
Yeah.
where, there's clinical help where you are seeing a psychiatrist, you're seeing a counselor, you're going to therapy, and you still need a sense of community.
Yeah.
And I think that like our biggest thing now is we are on our phones a lot. We're not really like we're connecting with people, it feels like, but we're not connecting to them like on the level that like Sean's house like offers. So like the
Yeah.
more students that come through the door, the better. And
No,
like,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, you're never gonna have someone come to Sean's house that gets turned down, right?
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario, someone comes in here being like not considerate of the
Yeah.
space, but
Yeah.
we would never turn anyone down that just needs somewhere to be,
Yeah.
just needs a space to talk to people, needs to get support in some capacity,
Yeah.
needs resources, even just like is bored, wants to hang out. I mean, that sense of community is here. And
Yeah.
I think one misconception is like, we remember like you. Like if someone comes
Yeah.
into Sean's house, like I will remember you.
Yeah.
Like I'm not just like going through the motions. Like
Yeah.
we all care about the community we've built, and it's not just a matter of, oh, like this is how they always act. It's like, no, like I know everyone who walks in and out these doors.
Yeah. And it's important to have people like that.
Yeah.
That take go the extra mile to make you feel seen and heard. So
Absolutely.
thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I try.
Question number 4: who or what has been a lighthouse for you in your mental health journey?
I always have a lot of good answers, and I always try to change it up because when I am struggling and when I'm going through mental health struggles, I there's a variety of people I lay on. So I usually say my mom, because my mom's awesome.
Yeah, it's always mom or dad if we're fortunate enough.
Yeah, you know what I mean. But my mom, she's a stud. She's been with me through everything. I owe her the world. But I mean, it's really to kind of flip this answer on its head. I mean, going back to it, like I'll even say like all of my friends or like all of my family. I mean, of course, there's some people who are less involved with that side of my life, and there's some people who are more. But just having that group, that social group, people who love me and support me and want to see the best for me in like every capacity. That's who gets me through, right? And it kind of ebbs and flows, right? Like sometimes some people will be more available than other people, and like that's just how it works. But yeah, like my lighthouse is definitely my group of friends, my parents, my cousins, like anyone who I actively keep in my life definitely is someone who like I try to, or at least know I can lean on if I need them.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you have a good support system behind you, so
Absolutely.
That's always a good thing. Was there anything particular that they did to help you, or just being there?
I mean, everyone approaches mental health in a different way. Some better than others.
Yeah.
But everyone has something different they bring to the table in terms of a perspective. For example, my mom is just a really compassionate person. She's a really good listener. She's really good at like solving problems. But sometimes, she can struggle with like getting overwhelmed or like kind of putting herself in my shoes a little too much.
Yeah,
right?
That mother's intuition.
Absolutely. Yeah. But my stepdad, like he's very like hard-nosed, kind of just like hard-working guy. But he's also very good at just like stepping out of the situation and giving me like an honest and open perspective on whatever I'm going through.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that duality of softness and hardness, right?
Yeah.
And any good social circle, right, needs that duality.
Yeah,
or even
a balance.
Yeah. And just, I think that, I'll say, as a whole, that is like what they provide. It's
Yes,
just
definitely.
different perspectives that balance each other out. So I'm never just leaning one way all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be good for anyone.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, thank you for that. We will move on to question number 5. You know our mission here: educate, assist, support. What do you see as the most crucial to your role here at Sean's house?
Hmm. I never thought about that. I would say support.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a big part of what I try to do here at Sean's house is build that community of just strangers that we turn into friends or support beams, at least for the time being. And support, I see that in a lot of different capacities. Obviously, we do peer support here, and I'm involved in those sessions, and as both sides of if there's a guest who comes in, supporting them, but also supporting our peers with any struggles they have while they're going through those
Mm-hmm.
sessions. Support in the capacity of, if I see someone in the house, I'm going to say hi, and I'm going to try to talk to them, and I'm just going to try to to know them a little bit more, and show interest
Mm-hmm.
in that I care about them. Um, and even supporting like my coworkers, like
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through tough stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
the other day for the thank you event, Missy text me like at like middle of the day, and she's like, "Can you come back? Can we record the video?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Sure, like yeah, I'll be there." You know what I mean? Just making sure that wherever I can help my coworkers, the volunteers, the guests, whoever, like just making sure I can do my most in my capacity to get that done.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I also think you have a wide skill set, especially being a double major. So I think you do a lot of education too. I
Sure.
think you have a lot to bring to the table in terms of that, and you're always lending a helping hand to us in leadership. So um, I think you cover all three of them pretty nicely. But
I
being a peer
appreciate that.
specialist, obviously, you know, support is your number one
Absolutely.
at the top of your list.
Absolutely.
Do you think that the importance of each pillar changes based on the situation? Say you have someone come in here and they don't really understand what's going on. Like, do you think that it would shift into a more like educational?
I think I don't think the importance changes because I think all three are equally
Mm-hmm.
always as important. But I think the way in which you utilize those pillars
Mm-hmm.
changes based on the situation.
Yeah.
When I think of like educate, obviously you're going to think about educating about the stigma around mental health,
Mm-hmm.
educating about different mental disorders, educating about what we do here at Sean's house and how to contact a therapist. But it could even be in the capacity of educating a guest on different things to do around campus. I've done that
Mm-hmm.
before.
Yeah.
Educating one of my coworkers if they've made a mistake and I want to help the house run in a more efficient manner. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, helping them with that. Assisting. I mean, it could be helping with stuff around the house like cleaning and restocking,
Mm-hmm.
but it could also be assisting a guest to find a therapist or
Mm-hmm.
assisting you know anyone. Uh, and all of them like remain important, but it's just how we do them
Mm-hmm.
changes. But you still have to do all three. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a iron triangle. You really can't get one without the other.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to educate people
Mm-hmm.
without assisting and supporting them. It doesn't make sense to support someone. Here's your supports. Know nothing about what I'm doing for you right
Yeah.
now, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to help you with what I'm doing. Like I'm just throwing this at you.
Yeah.
You need all three.
Yeah. I agree, and that's a great way to put it. The iron triangle. I like
Yeah.
that. So, question number 6. Second to last question.
Mm.
If you are helping a friend, what are the top 3 things you would do to support them?
Mm. It's a good question. I think the most important thing is listen.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, I mean, we've really lost the value of listening.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can hear someone, right? But at the same time, you can hear someone without listening to them,
Mm-hmm.
which I think a lot of people struggle with differentiating that. Listening, it's not just understanding the words someone's saying, it's putting yourself in their shoes,
Mm-hmm.
giving it a little empathy, right? Understanding how would I feel if I was in that position? How do they feel right now in their situation? Synthesizing new thoughts about it. I mean, oh, well, they're concerned about this because this, but they also might be thinking about that. It's such a more complex skill than just being like, oh, okay, like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry that's happening to you right now. Oh, like, I'm sorry, whatever. Like, oh, that sucks. Like, listening requires just so much mental effort in terms of
Mm-hmm.
just trying to help a person and understand their needs and understand their background.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the most important
Yeah.
thing to do first.
I think, yeah, definitely being an active listener is
Yes.
an underappreciated skill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot, a lot of people don't really understand it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, that's, we
We weren't taught it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's no part in school where you're taught to active
No.
listen. I mean, you're taught to active hear and,
Mhm.
like, understand words.
Yeah.
But you're never taught to, like, sit and listen to a story and, like,
Ask questions. Yeah.
right? Like, you're kind of just walked through it. And I don't know. I think that's definitely a skill we need to emphasize more
Mm-hmm.
in, like, children. I got two more.
Yeah.
Listening, first important one. I think also a role of helping someone in whatever capacity you can.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean put other people before you. When I say whatever you can, I mean whatever you're comfortable doing and whatever that you feel would best help them. A lot of times when we help people, we're doing what we think is best, which is not always the right thing. So a good question is like, what can I do for you at this moment
Mm-hmm.
that I'm able to do? Or is there anything that you need that I can provide to you? And that is usually the best way to kind of get an answer for that, like just helping in whatever capacity, because a lot of people will go into be like, I'll do whatever for you. But I don't necessarily think that's, people mean that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, I'll do whatever for you. Okay, like, give me $1 million and like,
Yeah.
and like, make my depression go away.
It's kind of like a fluff,
Yeah.
like a fluffer, if that makes sense.
Right.
It's something that some people just put out there, like, so it's helpful to give examples.
Yeah.
Like, what will you do for me? How will you?
Exactly. Like, honestly, that would lead into my third thing is like follow up.
Yeah.
Right? Don't be a friend who's just like, all right, I'll do this for you. And then you don't do it. Right? Do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's not hard. If they ask you about it and it's reasonable and you tell them it's reasonable and you communicate that, do it. I mean, there's no excuse. If you have someone who's struggling and they give you a reasonable task that you agree to, be there.
Yeah.
Be supportive. And if you're uncomfortable with that, say it. That's okay too.
Yeah. So thank you. That was great.
Yeah.
And we're going to move on to question number 7,
Great.
which is from our last guest, your lifelong bestie, Erin Fitzgerald.
My guy.
Yeah, that's your dude. So she was our last podcast guest, and she writes to you, Chandler Morrell, if you had to choose one moment in your life that defines you, what would that be?
You know what? I'll say my one moment in life that defines who I am would definitely be, and this is kind of a wild comment, so you gotta follow me here. When I was in kindergarten,
Okay.
my mom asked me where I wanted to go to school.
Okay.
And she gave me 3 options. And I chose this little private Catholic school called St. Peter's in Newcastle, Delaware. Rest in peace. But
it's not there anymore. Well, it's still there, but
it's still there.
Empty.
In spirit.
Yeah.
Without children. But it's fine. But yeah, that decision kind of just set me on a path of providing me the social network that I need to succeed. The people that I met at that school, I'm still friends with to this day. I mean, those are my best friends. Like, those are my people I lean on.
That's amazing.
And I went through some rough stuff as a kid. Like, I didn't have the simplest, easiest childhood. So growing up with them and having these friends that I've known since, I mean, it's 14 years of friendship at this point for a
Yeah.
couple of them. Having that network that is so entwined and like so deeply seated in my development. I mean, we talk about these social networks, and not everyone's blessed to have a social network that's that strong and that's
Yeah.
that long-winded. But it's truly something special that just keeps me pushing. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Chandler, for being our guest number 3.
Of course.
Maybe have you back in the future. It was a pleasure talking. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and happy holidays.
Yeah. Thank you. Happy holidays.